All right, let's talk about comparing double dot plots now. All right, just like our previous example, this one is determining whether each statement is true or false and then explaining how we know. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This says the mode age is the same for camp A and camp B. All right, so the first thing we're going to need to know here, obviously, is what is mode? So mode is the value or values that occur most often in a set, in a data set. All right, so we want to know what occurs most often. And when we're talking about dot plots, actually this is the same as a peak. That peak is just going to be a visual representation of what occurs the most because it's going to be the highest point on the dot plot. So in this case, I can see right here the peak for camp A and the peak for camp B, and I could see if those modes are the same. So camp A, and I'll do this in blue, the mode for camp A is clearly 15, whereas the mode for camp B is clearly 13. So can't we determine if those are the same? And I'm going to say false on that because clearly camp A has a mode of 15, which is not the same as camp B, which is 13. All right, pretty straightforward, right? That is how we find mode. All right, let's move on to median. The median age for camp B is greater than the median age for camp A. So once again, we're gonna need to start off with knowing what is median. And median is the middle value in our set. All right, and how can we do this on a dot plot? Well, if you really wanted to list your numbers, you can, but we know we can also just count with the dots and find the middle values there. So in this case, we would count all of our dots. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that means our middle of 20 would be 10 and a half, which would be in between 10 and 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So our two middle values would be 10 and 11, and those values just happen to fall on 15. We would do the same thing over here. This one also has 20 values, so I'd find value 10 and 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Those values happen to fall on 13. So we know our median for camp A equals 15, and our median for camp B equals 13. In this case, do you guys see how our median and mode were the same for camp A and camp B? I want you guys to know that's not always the case. It just depends on the data set. So those terms can't be used in replacement of each other. Like I said, in this case, they just so happen to be the same. But just so you guys don't get confused, mode and median are not the same thing, and those values can't be interchanged with any set. It just depends. Some sets, they just so happen to be the same. All right, so in this case, they are the same, or sorry, they aren't the same. They're 15 and 13, so the median age for camp B is greater. Is 13 greater than 15? It's not. So this is false because camp A is 15, which is greater than camp B, which is 15. Oh, which is 13, sorry. So 15 is greater than 13, therefore camp A is greater, not camp B. So that's false. All right. All right, our third question says the range of camp A is greater than the range of camp B. So we have to know what range is. On our previous video, we talked about what interquartile range is, the difference between the highest and lowest quartiles. Range is the difference between highest and lowest values. I'm just going to say biggest and smallest values. And how do we find range? We find range by doing the maximum, the biggest value, minus the minimum, our smallest value. Okay, so we can just find this for each set. So for Camp A, our biggest value is going to be 17 and our smallest is 13. 17 minus 13, that gives me a range of 4. And for Camp B, my biggest value is 15 and my smallest value is 11. 15 minus 11 also gives me 4. So this says the range of Camp A is greater than the range of Camp B. Is that true? It is actually not. It is false. When we do the math, we can see the ranges are the same. All right, so there's an explanation there. Let's move on to our final one that talks about mean. The mean age is greater for Camp A than Camp B. Mean is the average. The way we find the average is we add all the values and we divide by how many there are. However, that would be a lot of work. And in this case, we can clearly see which one has a greater average. And the way we can see that is these are actually both the exact same visual representations, but this for Camp A ranges from 13 to 17, whereas Camp B ranges from 11 to 15. So we can clearly tell by that Camp A is going to have a greater average. So this is actually true because both dot plots have the same pattern, but Camp A's values are greater. So we can then assume that the mean is greater. All right. All right, hopefully all of that makes sense.